I'm going to tell a story about my life. And yesterday was Mother's Day, but this is about really more about my life than about other people. There's always a story in everybody's life. Everybody could write a book about their life. And the older you get, the more of a story you have for that book. I figure I'm probably about midway in my life. There's probably a lot more to tell, but I'm going to tell the story now just in case, especially now that I'm riding motorcycles. You never know, could die tomorrow. So it starts out, I'm 3 years old, and my real mother left when I was 3. My father was in the Air Force, so him being in the Air Force, he couldn't really stay at home and take care of us, so he had to take us to my grandparents' house to live. And it was a pretty good life. It taught me a little bit about the country, showed me a little bit about living on a farm. There wasn't a whole lot going on. My grandfather was pretty old by then, couldn't walk around, but he still showed me a little bit about the land and, you know, his experience and wisdom. So while I was living there, my father met him another woman that he was going to marry, the second wife. He actually marries this woman 2 times. Why he went back the second time, and I even asked him, I said, why did you marry her the second time? He says, I don't know, because I'm dumb. And the woman was not right in the head. She was always trying to commit suicide, taking pills, cutting her wrists with razor blades, doing a lot of crazy stuff. But I have to put on the other side, she was a good mother. She taught me my morals and my personality, pretty much. If it wasn't for her, I'd probably not be a very good person. So in a way, she did influence me into becoming the person I am today. So we all lived in Florida till I was like 8 years old, from 3 years old. So there was a pretty good span of time there that, you know, of course they divorced once and came back, and my dad had put me in like this little housing thing for children. It wasn't a children's home or anything. It was kind of like a daycare, but, you know, all the other kids went home at night, and me and my older sister, you know, we stayed there till finally one day my father came back and got me, and then we moved back to Indiana. And I was 8 years old then. So till 8 years old, till 11, it was a really bad neighborhood. Every day from school, and I'm not even joking, every day after school I'd get beat up. And the school sent me to a psychologist trying to figure out why I wouldn't do my schoolwork, why I wasn't paying attention in class. The main reason was that I was worrying every day that how I was going to be able to outrun these bunch of kids beating me up every day. I really didn't know how to fight. Nobody taught me how to fight. So my father being working all the time and having no mother, pretty much taking care of myself, trying to just survive. So when I was like 11 years old, my father put me in this place. They called it like a children's home, but it wasn't really a children's home. It was a military school, and they called it the Indiana Soldiers and Sailors Memorial. So in that place, they taught you a lot of discipline. You had to march to every meal. You were pretty much cleaning all day long. You would go to school. During the weekends, you would even work. They did have activities that you would do, a little bit. But also, those kids were pretty bad in that place. And I'm taking you back to when I first went in that place. The very first day, they beat me up, and they said they did it just to see how tough I was. And these kids definitely was all about fighting. So, after a few months of getting beat up, I finally learned how to defend myself. I just, every person that beat me up, I'd learned a little bit about fighting techniques. So what I ended up doing is finally one of these kids came to beat me up, and I fought back. And really, after I punched him the first time, I was like, well, hell, if I would have figured out I could have done this, I would have been doing that a long time ago. And that kid didn't mess with me anymore. And then it was another fight after another fight. And then I started defending the weaker kids in the place. I ended up becoming a fighter against bullies. I hated bullies, because I had been bullied so long. I felt bad about these other kids that were being bullied by these others. And when they saw me around, they quit doing their bullying. So in a way, I just became a defender of the weak. So from the age of 11 to 14, I was in that place. And, I'm not saying that place was a total bad place, because I learned how to swim there. I learned about girls. Not having a mother around really made it to where I didn't understand women or girls. And I still remember the first time that I figured out what a women's period was. Because I had to ask the other kids, I was like, what are these commercials where they're talking about Kotexes and tampons and all this stuff? I said, I can tell it has something to do with women. I said, but I never could figure out what it was. So those kids looked at me and was laughing and trying to figure out, you don't know what that means? I said, no. And he said, they bleed once a month. And I said, they bleed? I said, why do they bleed? I said, are women sick or something? And they're like, no, it's just something that goes on with women. They bleed once a month. And it was really a shock. Stuff that I had to learn on my own. I really didn't learn it on my own. I had to learn it from other kids. So that place was really a school to teach me about life. When I first went in there, I didn't know how to read a clock. I couldn't tell my time. So some of the kids taught me that. A lot of things that you would think you would learn in school, you would know, but at school, just like I said, I was getting beat up every day. I didn't have time to learn about schoolwork. I was thinking about how am I going to survive for the day. So finally I got out at 14. My dad came and got me, and my older sister, and my little brother. My little brother and little sister was born after my mother and father got a divorce. My mother had 2 other children, a boy and a girl, and we don't know who the fathers are because she messed around with a lot of dudes. And that's that. So I actually did become pretty close with my brother, not having other kids to hang out with that you could feel close to. So, but my brother had a bad habit of stealing, and when my father took us out, he moved us to Alabama, and that was a culture shock because we're from Indiana. I did grow up part of my life in Florida, but believe me, Alabama is way different than Florida. Florida is kind of like a lot of beaches and people from everywhere. But in Alabama, the people are southern hospitality type of people, rednecks, hillbillies. There's a mix of different type of country people there. Some of them you couldn't understand. Their accents were so bad. Kind of sounds like a cartoon talking to you, and like from Charlie Brown. and he just couldn't understand them. So my brother stealing stuff so much, he finally got sent back up here to north with my mother. So then I was there alone again, and my father still wasn't married to another woman, so it was just kind of like me and him. And I kind of had to go out on my own and learn about life myself, and it gave me an opportunity to think for myself. I didn't have, there was a lot of religious people down there, but I didn't have people pushing it on me because I was kind of out there doing my own thing. So it gave me an opportunity to think for myself, and I didn't have religion in my life, no government influence, nobody talked to me about government policies and laws or anything like that. And then there's girls. I really still didn't know anything about girls. I'm just kind of living my own life. Of course, girls are looking at me, but me not knowing anything about them, I didn't really know how to deal with them, so I just kind of went my own way. Didn't ever ask any of them out on a date or any stuff like that. I hung around with some of them in school, but after school I was kind of out there on my own. And I met an Indian kid. He showed me around the mountains there in Alabama, showed me the valleys and the woods and the caves, and that was a pretty good time in my life. I still didn't have a mother there telling me what I needed to do. My father was like, as long as you're home for dinner, we're all right. And I was getting older by then, but I didn't have a way to get around. So my father one day bought me a motorcycle to learn on. A 1968 Yamaha, very old bike. It did run. It was kind of big for me. It was a 600. Being short, because I'm like 5'5" now, I'm a little short guy. That was a little bit tall for me, but I still got on it and jumped on it, started to learn to ride, and then they made a mistake. They took me off the little streets that we were living on out into these coal mines, and there was a lot of water ruts and tree branches and all, just kind of almost like going out in the woods, but a lot of the trees were cut down. So I was going down these dirt roads, and I hit one of them water ruts and fell sideways, and it threw the timing chain on the bike and kind of ruined the bike, because of course I didn't know anything about working on them, because I was just learning how to ride them.